The sewer rescue that changed everything. What would you do if you saw someone drowning in a storm drain while dozens of people just stood there watching? This is the story of a moment that tested everyone's humanity, and how one brave little girl's split-second decision exposed the darkest truths about society while creating the most unlikely friendship imaginable. A torrential rainstorm has just swept through the city, leaving the streets flooded and dangerous. In the chaos that follows, a young boy from one of the wealthiest families in town finds himself trapped in rising water with no way out. What happens next will make you question everything you think you know about courage, compassion, and what really matters when lives are on the line. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday afternoon in downtown Boston. The weather forecast had called for light showers, nothing more. But Mother Nature had other plans entirely. What started as a gentle spring rain quickly transformed into a violent thunderstorm that caught everyone completely off guard. 10-year-old Marcus Chen was walking home from his elite private academy when the sky opened up without warning. As the son of tech billionaire David Chen, Marcus was used to being driven everywhere in luxury vehicles with professional drivers. But today was different. Today was his first day being allowed to walk the 6 blocks home alone, a small taste of independence his father had reluctantly granted after months of pleading. The rain came down in sheets so thick you could barely see 10 feet ahead. Marcus ducked under shop awnings and sprinted between doorways, his expensive school uniform getting soaked despite his efforts. He was actually enjoying the adventure of it all, feeling grown up and capable as he navigated the storm on his own. That's when he made a fatal mistake. Instead of staying on the main streets where help would be readily available, Marcus decided to take a shortcut through Riverside Park. It would cut his journey home in half, and he was eager to get out of the rain. But the park's drainage system, designed for normal rainfall, was completely overwhelmed. Water rushed through the streets like rivers, carrying debris and creating dangerous currents that could knock a grown man off his feet. The storm drains, usually hidden beneath the sidewalks, had become violent whirlpools of churning water. Marcus was crossing the park's main path when the ground beneath his feet gave way. A section of sidewalk, weakened by the rushing water below, collapsed without warning. One moment he was walking confidently through the storm, the next he was plummeting into a concrete storm drain filled with ice-cold, fast-moving water. The current immediately grabbed him and pulled him deeper into the drainage system. Marcus was a strong swimmer, his family's private pool had seen to that, but this wasn't like swimming in calm, chlorinated water. This was a raging torrent filled with sharp debris, pulling him through narrow concrete tunnels at terrifying speeds. Above ground, his disappearance didn't go unnoticed for long. A jogger who had witnessed the sidewalk collapse started screaming for help. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered around the gaping hole where Marcus had vanished. Someone called 911, and soon the area was swarming with emergency responders. Fire trucks arrived with specialized rescue equipment. Police officers cordoned off the area and began assessing the situation. Paramedics stood ready with medical gear. But as the rescue teams evaluated the collapsed storm drain, their expressions grew increasingly grim. "The current is too strong," the fire chief announced to the growing crowd. "The water level is rising too fast. We can't safely send anyone down there." "What about rope systems?" someone shouted. "Or diving equipment?" The fire chief shook his head. "The tunnels are too narrow and the water pressure is too intense. Anyone who goes in there has almost no chance of making it back out alive." By now, word had spread about who exactly was trapped below. Marcus Chen, heir to one of the largest tech fortunes in the country, was fighting for his life in the storm drains beneath their feet. News vans began arriving. Reporters pushed through the crowd, eager to capture the unfolding drama. David Chen himself arrived 20 minutes after the initial call, his usual composed demeanor completely shattered. This was a man who had built a tech empire through calculated risks and strategic thinking, but now he stood helpless as his only son remained trapped below ground. "I'll pay anything," he declared to the rescue teams. $10 million to whoever brings my son back safely. $20 million. Name your price. But money couldn't solve this problem. The laws of physics and the brutal reality of the situation remained unchanged, regardless of how much the Chen family was worth. The rescue team leader, a veteran with 30 years of experience, pulled David aside and spoke in hushed tones that the gathered crowd couldn't hear. Whatever he said made David's face go completely white. Meanwhile, the crowd continued to grow. Office workers on their lunch breaks stopped to gawk. Shoppers abandoned their errands to watch the drama unfold. Street performers and vendors materialized, sensing an opportunity to profit from the gathering masses. But nobody volunteered to help. Not one person stepped forward to suggest they might try to reach Marcus themselves. The professional rescuers had declared it too dangerous, and that seemed to settle the matter for everyone present. Well, almost everyone. 12-year-old Rosa Martinez had been on her way home from the public library when she heard the commotion. Unlike the wealthy spectators in their expensive clothes, Rosa wore a faded jacket and shoes that had seen better days. She lived with her grandmother in a small apartment 6 blocks away, in a neighborhood where emergency responders took longer to arrive and help wasn't always guaranteed. Rosa pushed through the crowd until she could see the collapsed storm drain for herself. While adults debated insurance liability and rescue protocols, she was calculating something entirely different. She was small enough to fit through spaces that would trap an adult. She was an excellent swimmer from years of sneaking into the community pool. And most importantly, she understood something the wealthy onlookers had never learned. Sometimes you have to save yourself because no one else will. "I can get him," she announced loudly. The crowd turned to stare at this scrawny kid in second-hand clothes who thought she could succeed where trained professionals had failed. Someone actually laughed. "Don't be ridiculous," a woman in a business suit scoffed. "This is a job for experts." "The experts just said they can't do it," Rosa pointed out with unshakable logic. David Chen knelt down to Rosa's eye level, desperation making him willing to listen to anyone who offered hope. "What makes you think you can reach him when they can't?" Rosa looked directly into his eyes with a maturity that seemed far beyond her 12 years. "Because I'm small enough to get through the tunnels, I'm not afraid of dirty water, and I actually know what it's like when nobody's coming to save you." The rescue team leader immediately protested. "We cannot allow a child to attempt this. The liability alone would be astronomical, not to mention the ethical issues. What about the ethical issues of letting that boy die when someone is willing to try to save him?" Rosa shot back. An argument erupted among the adults. Some insisted it was too dangerous to let a child attempt the rescue. Others pointed out that Marcus was running out of time with every passing minute. The bureaucratic wheels turned slowly while somewhere below, a 10-year-old boy fought against churning water and concrete walls. Rosa didn't wait for permission. While the adults debated, she slipped away from the crowd and found a maintenance access point 50 yards downstream from the collapse. The metal grate was partially submerged, but Rosa had grown up in a neighborhood where you learned to open things that weren't supposed to be opened. By the time anyone noticed she was gone, Rosa had already disappeared into the storm drain system. The rescue team leader immediately protested. "We cannot allow a child to attempt this. The liability alone would be astronomical, not to mention the ethical issues. What about the ethical issues of letting that boy die when someone is willing to try to save him?" Rosa shot back. An argument erupted among the adults. Some insisted it was too dangerous to let a child attempt the rescue. Others pointed out that Marcus was running out of time with every passing minute. The bureaucratic wheels turned slowly while somewhere below, a 10-year-old boy fought against churning water and concrete walls. Rosa didn't wait for permission. While the adults debated, she slipped away from the crowd and found a maintenance access point 50 yards downstream from the collapse. The metal grate was partially submerged, but Rosa had grown up in a neighborhood where you learned to open things that weren't supposed to be opened. By the time anyone noticed she was gone, Rosa had already disappeared into the storm drain system.